right. Hey, everybody. I'm Emily Nakata-Alm, founder and executive director of Destiny City Film Festival. Super excited to have the folks behind Takeout Girl with us here for a Q&A. I was explaining to them how impressed I was with the movie. All around, just super high quality. You could tell that they put a lot of time and effort into it, and we're really honored to have it in our festival. So everyone make sure, if you haven't already watched it, go check it out. And I'm going to throw it over to our guests to introduce themselves, who they are and what they did with the film.
Hi, my name is Hedy. I co-wrote, I produced, and I acted in it.
Hello, I am Hisonni Mustafa. I co-wrote, I directed, and produced the film and a bunch of other stuff.
That's what happens, right? You start making that, you have a project, and then you get your hands in all parts of it, right? So
very much
avoid it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to join me today to talk about your movie. I think that the conversations with the makers behind the films is one of the best parts about festivals that we're trying to add in, even though we can't be in person together, which we're sad about, but doing our best to add this part to it too. So super excited to have you guys here. My first question, and I know you probably get this a lot, but I want to know, how did you come on this project, and how maybe did you come together on it? Where did it start, and how did it all come together?
I was just, living in LA. I had this idea for a script, and I just want to make it real easy on myself. So I kind of wrote it on a lot of, based on a lot of real stories and my own background. And then I later met Hisonni, and that's when all the magic happened, because, he's a very talented filmmaker, and, we didn't have a lot, but, with his skill set, I mean, as you can tell, the movie, it's a real movie, and I'm really grateful for Lauren, who played Sarah, and my brother, linking me up with Hisonni.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I came on board. I started to build a little bit of a reputation as a guy who can make a dime look like a dollar on a film, and didn't need a lot. And Lauren contacted me, told me he had a friend who had a really good idea for a film. Hedy reached out to me, very Takeout Girl-like, arranged the meeting, the time, the place. And when I met her, I knew the premise of the film, about a young lady who parlays her food delivery expertise into a little bit of a profitable drug hustle. But I did not know that I was going to meet a person like no one I've ever met before. The way Hedy walks, the way she talks, her appearance juxtaposed with those things, I knew we had a stake together. Not the same stake. I mean, she had hers, I had mine, but it was just, by the end of that dinner, I knew that I could make a film pretty much revolving around any sort of plot, and it would be interesting watching her personality navigate through whatever obstacles I put in her way. So it just goes to show you that, ideas for films, whether high concept or low concept, can really pop out of nowhere and for any given reason.
Yeah, I get what you mean about you could make a film about her with her in it. I mean, from the first scene, you're hooked into who is this person, who's this character, where are they going, what do they want to do. So that was extremely well crafted just right from the beginning, in every way. So I'm curious, Hedy, about your experience with acting before this. Like, what have you done before this?
Not much. I mean, I've been in LA. I moved to LA for acting. I did some commercials, music videos, lifestyle shoots, but it wasn't anything major. Definitely not carrying a whole film or anything either. So I was very, I knew that this was my type of role, but I was definitely very nervous. And Hisonni pointed that out. He was like, "You were scared to death." And I'm like, I guess I was, but I was trying to, just maintain and just carry through and follow through. Luckily, though, I've been in the artistic life for a while, so I may be still, I may not have done a lot of acting, but artistically, I knew kind of where it's supposed to go. And of course, Hisonni was a great director. He guided me through the scenes, and places where I didn't hit the notes. He was, he explained it really well. And, he was a former actor himself. So, he definitely, guided me during this too, as well.
Yeah. So what did you learn from, this being your kind of biggest role that you've had? What did you take away from it?
Teamwork makes the dream work, we, like I said, we didn't have a lot. We had a lot, this Takeout Girl is really the passion project, because when you don't have much, it's really the blood, sweat, and tears that drive this. And with the film, it's not like music where it's a self-contained production. In film, you really have to have somebody to just know what they're doing, and all the departments working together. It's a lot of variables, so teamwork is really key in making an indie film and getting across the finish line. So I learned a lot about collaborating. It's my first rodeo though with a feature film, and Hisonni kind of warned me. He was like, it's one thing to hear about it, like, oh yeah, I'm sure we'll be fine. But once you're going through, you're like, this path definitely isn't for the faint of heart. But I'm really, at this point, I'm really happy that, the team made across the finish line, and we did it well, and people seem to, like the story enough, and not be like, what the hell is this, as people seem to relate to the story. And so I'm grateful for that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can tell that everyone who was working on it believed in it, and that you have to have that to have a successful film. And so I'm curious, like, did the team come together pretty easily? Did it take a while to find everyone to work on it with you all?
So when I first started, I only had Lauren, who played my brother. A lot of the LA background, little details actually came from his life. He grew up in the Pueblos. So I took that from his background, but he was my only person. And then I met Hisonni, and then from there, Hisonni just started to build the team around us that, especially with the, like with Ski and Teddy, he made sure there was like good actors around me to uplift me as I went through all the scenes for production.
The core team that made Takeout Girl was kind of like 4 people. It was Hedy behind the camera. It was Hedy, myself, Alberto Triana, our cinematographer and producer, and Melissa Del Rosario, our producer, and she worked kind of any other position we needed on the day. The project really is, something that the budget was essentially blood, sweat, and tears, as Hedy said, and everybody had to do a lot more than they anticipated in order to see it through to the end. But yeah, she's right. It was like a fire that kind of forged us into an amazing sort of team. Our bonds are closer because we had to really overcome a lot to make the film come together. And what's really weird about this film is everyone still gets along. I've been working on films for a long time, and you really can't predict how these things are going to go, how your relationships are going to be by the time a film is done, especially a film that's going to test you the way this one did. We shot in Las Vegas, Nevada during the summer, which was my fault. But for some reason, my pride made me think I could take on Las Vegas heat. And
until the equipment started melting, right?
Yeah, until equipment started melting. So, but we made it through. And like that heat alone would normally drive a wedge in between even the closest people after a certain amount of days. But with us, even on our days off, we go and catch a movie together and like build morale. So we turned into a little bit of a film family.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful that Hisonni introduced me to Alberto and MJ. MJ's Melissa. And they really, Alberto, like I said, there's not a lot of resources on our film, so these people really went above and beyond their duties in order for Takeout Girl to get what it needs to get to a certain level. So I really appreciate them.
Yeah, and being in Vegas in the summer, how long were you there? How long was the filming?
We shot 15 days with a crew of about 8 people.
Okay. Wow.
And then we shot 25 more days, just Alberto, myself, and Melissa behind the camera. Okay. Hedy was doing her producing duties on the days off, and then she'd hop in front of camera and fully embody the character. And we just kind of tried to insulate her from production issues while she was in front of the camera. But it was 40 days total.
Wow. Yeah, I'm curious, like switching between those two roles, Hedy, like was that challenging to kind of change your mindset a bit?
Luckily, I have a great team that I could, I know they could handle it. Of course, this is like the script, this movie, this story is my baby. So I think when you run your own business, you always have worries, right? Even though I know I'm supposed to act today, but when it's like Hisonni said, when it's time for me to act, luckily I had enough experience to kind of in the moment drop everything at the door and focus on the scene, but a part of me, you don't really turn that off. You just kind of multitask as you go. But luckily, like I said, when they yell action, I'm tearing. I'm tearing for that moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. Was there anything with the production that surprised you as you went along, or like things that kind of made you go a different direction on anything?
I don't know how to answer. You go ahead, Hisonni. Go ahead.
We, of course, every day,
challenges.
every day, all day. We were trying to make the film, and it felt like the film was trying to unmake itself. And what we did is we just embraced it. Like every time something went wrong, we assumed it was the universe enforcing a rewrite. And we just tried to be really intuitive, both like emotionally and intellectually as to what that rewrite was supposed to be. And with that attitude, it allowed voices from the crew and producers and actors to come together and kind of seamlessly rewrite the situation for the location we now had, or for the actor who couldn't make it, or whatever went our way. And amazingly, the story came together really, really well. So again, like one of my biggest lessons on this film was to be open to the universe almost telling you what you're doing wrong. Like, because the film is better for it. All these changes, I think once we got through like our first week of shooting, I thoroughly knew, I think everybody did, but I thoroughly knew that like anything they threw at me, I was rolling with it. I wasn't going to battle it anymore. I wasn't going to even try and stick to exactly what I saw in my head. I let that hubris go and was just 100% committed to letting the universe make a better film than I could.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Rather than resist it, embrace everything that happened. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious what it was like watching it for the first time for both of you.
You mean like the snippets, or like the movie as its
like
entirety?
The whole movie, like you're in the audience, you're watching it.
Man, it's I'm just happy. Well, it's a lot. It's so many feelings. Is it because the story is based on some factual things? When I see this Tara go through her story, it reminds me of like certain bad times in my life too. So it's kind of like, I guess the movie's done so well that I'm kind of like, man, I don't like, so like, I don't want to be reminded sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
And then of course I remember how we got here. So all the blood, sweat, and tears, it's emotional. It's a lot of good feelings, and then you kind of just remember the past too,
Mm-hmm.
At this point though, there's more distance now between me, us starting writing it till now, and now I can look back in retrospect and be like, that was quite a journey, and I'm glad I made it through.
Yeah, you made it through. What about you, Hisonni?
I can't watch it. Like
okay.
1,000 and 10,000, however many times I've seen it. But as a filmmaker, I don't make films to watch my own film. I make my films to watch you watch my films.
Right.
So it is a new experience every time I get to watch it with someone else, because I get to see what's working, what's not. I get to see if I'm becoming better as a filmmaker of forcing the audience into the shoes of my main character, especially during uncomfortable moments, because you get to see people don't even, they subconsciously or without knowing, they're squirming, they're moving, they're leaning in, they're getting deathly silent. We got to screen the film one time before the pandemic kind of took over the world, and it was cool to acknowledge things that I could have done better in the film, but to still hear the silence in the theater. If I miss anything about live screenings, it's the silent moments, because that is the dead giveaway for me as a filmmaker. It's like, I got you, like I'm making you do what I want you to do here. And it's always better than I think it's going to be. So yeah, I don't watch the film, I watch the people.
I can definitely attest to leaning in at many points through the movie, and at the end, after how it ended, I just sat there in silence. I was like, what happened? Wow.
Yeah.
You got it then.
Oh yeah. And I was like, I feel like I need to watch that again to really, yeah, for sure. So mission accomplished, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah. What do you hope people take away from watching the film?
Oh, I hope that, they, whatever they're going through in life, that they know, like, they're not alone in their pain. There's plenty of people. I mean, as you can see, the character of Tara, she's very flawed. She's trying to figure it out, and you're going to make mistakes while you're trying to figure it out. And that's just part of life, part of the evolution. And so I think when the stories for the reasons for making this it keeps evolving for me too. When I first wrote this, it was more of like a sorry letter to my mom, for not being the daughter that she wanted me to be. And now I think, now at the end of the, crossing the finish line, I just hope that people can relate to it and not feel as alone when they watch it.
For me, there's two things I hope people can take from it. The first thing I hope people can take from it is that there's been a little bit of a trend in the industry of films becoming more diverse, but they're also becoming a little bit more exclusive too. There's an exclusivity in the diversity. Yes, a Black filmmaker can get a film, but they have to make a film about Black subjects, because that's all we expect you to know. And the great thing about Takeout Girl was that a blended cast and crew, Asian, Black, white, Hispanic, all came together and melded their ideas together, because ultimately it's a story about mothers, and all of us have one. And we all adore our moms, and we would all do, if you take the journey with Tara at all, it's because you would do anything for your family and your mom. And that's why the story works. Now, on a second level, it works because Hedy's really, really good at what she does.
Yeah.
But, and then the other thing is just I believe that, all right, we're living in a very, very political world. And my whole life, I feel the impact of a lot of policy that's created by these politicians. I am the only boy from my block that wasn't shot or thrown in jail. And I very vividly remember being called a super predator. I don't believe that anyone who creates policy or talks about policy or can influence policy should be allowed to do that without there being a true sense of empathy for the people you're creating the policy for. Like, Takeout Girl should be required watching for anyone creating policy on criminal justice and you know what I mean, like prison reform and things of that nature, because this is the sort of film that can, once it puts you in her shoes, you look at the decisions that desperate people have to make much differently than you did before. I would feel comfortable knowing some politician watched this film before they created a law that could incarcerate a ton of people who were in Tara's position. So those are the two main reasons I made the film, and the two things I hope people take from it.
You definitely do get enveloped in that whole chain, like chain of dominoes, and why certain decisions were made and for who, and that dedication to family was definitely strong throughout the whole film. So I'm sure folks will relate to that and take away something really strong from that. So, Yeah, I can't wait for our audience to watch this. I really wish we could all be in a theater so we could hear, those moments of silence and entertainment, just pure entertainment and being engaged with the story. But either way, we're super excited to have it in our lineup. What's next for it? Are you still doing festivals, or what's the plan?
We are doing festivals.
Okay.
I'm going to Arizona for a film festival this weekend. We have a couple in Wisconsin, and a couple farther down the line. I think our festival journey will end in about 4 months or so, 4 or 5 months, and hopefully there's some good news coming down the pipe about a wide release.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, keep me posted, please.
Absolutely.
We want to share news about it and support y'all as you move forward with this project. So.
Oh, and thank you. Like stories like these, like I tell Hedy all the time, like this is not the sort of film that gets greenlit in Hollywood. Like there is a major move toward diversity, but I find myself to be a little bit of a weird person because I just want to tell stories, and I can see a little bit of myself in everybody. So there's no limit on the stories I feel like I can tell. Again, me and Hedy were telling stories about our mothers who are very different women, but the story mashed together really, really well. And for you guys to have the foresight to kind of see that this film is important and to give us a platform and to move us forward. Because once again, if I took this into some studio and said, hey, I want to make a film about an Asian woman who does this, and with they would have been like, you're not the guy to do this. And somehow we made it work.
You definitely did. Yeah, and like I mentioned before, it was a no-brainer for us to select it. And yeah, we want to support it however we can. Is there anything else you want to make sure our audience hears from y'all, or anything about the film that we haven't talked about?
Hedy?
I just thank you for giving us your time, and checking us out.
I second that.
Yeah. Well, we will definitely be sharing updates as things happen with the film. Do you plan on doing any projects together in the future, do you think, or?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Like we've really become like family during this project, and we're always talking about stuff. I know we've pitched a prequel to this and had a little bit of traction, but we barely even tried. So it's the beginning of that journey, and Hedy and I both, I have a short coming up, and Hedy's giving me some feedback about it already. She has some features she's developing. I think we'll always be there for one another creatively, for sure. So, and the first chance I get to work with her again, I'm probably going to take it.
Nice. I was wondering if there was going to be a prequel or a sequel or anything like that with Takeout Girl. So if that happens, that'd be cool.
Fingers crossed.
We'll see. Awesome. Well, we will be sure to share, like I said, news about the film, the websites, people can check it out, stay up to date on everything. And thank you so much for sharing some of your time with us to talk about the movie, and for sharing your true hearts with this story with us and the film. I know it's so important to you, and so we want to support it. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Next time you have a project, come back to us. Hopefully we can come up to Tacoma, Washington and hang out with Destiny City Film Festival sometime in the future.
That'll be awesome.
100%.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily.
Thanks.